So this is the town of Glenmora. We're located on Highway 165 south of Alexandria, and that's one of our only signs that says "Welcome to Glenmora." Um, that's one of our billboards. It's an old ad for an insurance agency company, and it hasn't been changed in probably 5 years. These are some houses on the right. That's a little house on the left up there. And we're fixing to be coming up to the only stoplight we have. And on the right is really where our major employment is in the town. That's G&G. That's Fuzzies. That's another billboard that's usually just old insurance ads. That's one of our dollar stores, the Family Dollar. That's Anna's. It's a gas station. And we do have just buildings that aren't really in use anymore, like that on the right, that little small building that's been abandoned for a long time. That's another billboard with an outdated sign. A couple of houses on the right. Um, some more houses. These are some storage units up there that you can rent. That's a closed meat shop. So up to our left is one of the more major recreational areas. That's our walking park. It's in pretty good shape. It's usually upkept with the mowing and um, weed eating. Plenty of trees. There's areas for children to play in, and there's a walking path that typically adults walk on. This is one of the nicer areas of Glenmora. And we're just gonna head back to Highway 165 here. Traffic can be big at some parts of the day. At this time of recording, there really wasn't much traffic. It's more of the evening time. People are usually already home. So these are the houses we saw just a few seconds ago. We're going to try and get a better look at the fire station. And that's it on the left, kind of hidden by some trees right now. There's a better view of it. It's really small. We don't really have many volunteers, and most of them aren't certified in things such as CPR. Um, that's our water tower. Again, that's Anna's and the Family Dollar. These are really some of the bigger places to be employed in Glenmora. You really have to just go outside of the town to get any higher paying job besides minimum wage. So this is the main street of Glenmora. We have many churches such as the Grace Christian Center. Out to the right, that's an abandoned restaurant. That's a little coffee shop to the left. These are some mostly abandoned areas, but there are some flea markets. Up to the right is an abandoned building that used to be a place like you could rent movies from. That's a little post office. That's the Rush Center. It's a funeral home. That's an abandoned movie theater. So it's a really old town. It was founded in around the 1800s. And you can tell that it used to probably be more busy by the way we have just so many available businesses on the street, but they're just closed. And these are some of the houses that live on this side of the town. Some of them are in better shape than others. We have many trees, many yards that are not really kept, but a lot of them are also kept up really good. And as you can see by some of the ramps, you can see some of the community is disabled. That's another church. Like I said, we have several. It's a very Christian-heavy community. It's either Catholic or Baptist is the biggest denominations. So these are just some more examples of just more unkept yards. Glenmora is a very impoverished community. It's also a very square community. So there were stop signs everywhere. And really you could just drive in circles forever in the town. So these are some abandoned houses in really poor condition. They were burned down. But the structure still stands. And the town basically refuses to tear them down in order to try and use this space for something public or sell the lot. This is just a corner of the town that's very overgrown with trees and brush. That's a peak of our school on the left, Glenmora High School. We're fixing to pan around to get a better view. So the whole school is called Glenmora High School, but it does have an elementary part. It's from pre-K to grade 12. This is a high school area. It's very nice to have decorations, plenty of space for students. They do many activities and extracurricular activities for students. This is the big gym, which just means it's for the older kids, more high school. This is the school cafeteria. It's very clean, very nice on the inside. And this is the elementary part. Also very nice. They reconstructed it a few years ago. And this is what we call the little gym. Many activities are held here, such as prom, homecoming, really any dance you could think of. But during school hours, it's used for elementary kids. These are just some more examples of some well kept up with houses. It's very much a toss-up on where you'll see what you could describe as a good versus bad house, if you will. It's just really random because, like I said, it's an impoverished community, but there are people that make more of a middle-class payment as well. It's actually more split into two communities. From the red light we saw earlier, across that red light is a other side of town that tends to be more impoverished. And these are just the houses we saw earlier. But like I said, it's a very square community. You can go around these roads forever and not really see this much of a difference. That's the Sabine State Bank. That's an example of a smaller place to be employed. I believe it has 2 workers. Once again, that's the coffee shop on the right. This is our only red light in town. Like I said, we're on Highway 165 south of Alexandria. It's about 2 miles long if you're using 165 as a measurement. Maybe 3 if you're really pushing it to the outer corp limit of the town. And so this is the more impoverished side of the town that I was talking about just a second ago across the red light. And you'll see some of these houses tend to be a little more run down and just old, not very kept up with. Very much overgrowth seen with the trees. But there are some houses that are well kept up with, some yards that are mowed, and just others that aren't. This is a heavily used road, so we tend to have city workers that mow all around here. So that's a house on the right. Pretty kept up with. That's a really nice house on the left. Have some good vehicles. Everything's clean. A little more of a rundown trailer. This pink house is actually very famous in the town. And the blue house, they're really run down, very striking colors. And that kind of gives you a feel of how old the town can be. Because colors like that were used more in like the I would say 40s to 60s era of building houses, and some of these houses are really old, like up to 100 years old and higher, because we're just a really old community that was enacted in around the 1830s. So that's another trailer that's a little more run down. And you see some more overgrowth of the trees and just bushes kind of area. We don't really cut trees down in the town. But at the same time, that can be seen as an asset because trees are very valuable to the ecosystem. One thing to note is that no matter where you really go in the town, the infrastructure is shown with all of the power lines. Our town is pretty fast at repairing power lines, and they are really just everywhere. It's hard to find a corner of a street that doesn't have a power pole sticking out of it. Many stop signs, all intact. So public transportation is not available in Glenmora. So you see a lot of people walking back and forth from their destinations. Sometimes you'll see people cycling. It's something the town's never really spoke about before, and never have really tried to do anything about. The closest thing to transportation we have is just school buses for the high school, and some of the churches have vans to pick up the elderly. So it's not an uncommon occurrence to see yards that are more cluttered and not very hygienic, to say. Once again, this is Anna's, just another angle to see at. There's really not much to see in Glenmora, which kind of explains why the video just shows many of the same areas, just in different angles. It's a really small community. There's not much to do in Glenmora besides go to the walking park. We're also fixing to come up on seeing our Optimus field. That's the name of our baseball slash soccer ball area that the high school uses for the soccer team and baseball team. They also use the baseball part for children summer league, which is why when we come up on it in a couple minutes, you'll see there'll be a whole bunch of signs on the outside. Sometimes teams will put kind of like banners inside of it to promote their team whenever they're playing like leagues. So these are just more examples of houses and the trees. This side of the area close to the park is really more kept up with. The trees look a little bit nicer. There's more space. Plenty of people always doing outdoor activities. And here you can see the banners and signs. They're all facing inward. Unfortunately, we can't really go into it right now because it's locked. But it is public. I believe they're doing maintenance on it. And you can see the soccer post over there and the goals. That is a senior citizen area that I believe is not in use anymore. And these are some of the more higher end houses in the town, if you will. Very nice fences, very nice quality of the housework. They're all in very good shape. And these are some also good examples of some houses, possibly of lesser cost to make, but also well kept. You have a couple of trailers, very spacious, all the lawns are mowed. Here is our local cemetery, very well kept up with, very few headstones that are cracked. Once again, the trees are all over the place, but they're very spacious in this area. This is one of our many roads with not too much on it. You'll have a few houses. These houses in particular are more livestock houses, if you will. There's very much open space and some barns, like we just saw. Of course, that was more of an abandoned and run-down barn, but there were some nicer ones to see. Sometimes there'll be livestock out here in certain seasons. Many of these individuals butcher their livestock. Open space really everywhere. You have a couple different types of trees here at this house. Some palm trees, I believe. Once again, you have our more normal pine and oak trees. Not too overgrown in this area. This is the Glenmora High School once again, but it's from the back angle. This is actually the side of the auditorium of the high school. And that's the auditorium on the side. You caught a little glimpse of the clinic there. There's just some more houses, some fences with some overgrown brush on it. This is more of a rundown house where I believe it burned down and they're using a tarp as a wall. This is another church. This is a Baptist church. They do many charities for the town. Not too many people go to it now, but you'll always have somebody on Sunday and Wednesdays. Some more houses. Little rundown trailer right there. American flag, a little bit of brush over that fence. Rundown house there, and believe it or not, next to that rundown house is actually another fully built house, but you just can't see it behind all of the overgrowth of leaves. There's another angle of the bank right there. You can see a peek of the post office. That's the only post office we have in town. But we also do get mail and mailboxes as well for those who cannot afford post boxes or just simply do not want one. That's yet again another church. I believe that's non-denominational. And that is a daycare. Many people in town have to go out for jobs, and they leave their young children in the care of the daycare. It's always in use. They even have a little playground for the children. So you can really just see how Glenmora is just full of trees, plenty of open space in most of the areas. But you can tell that it's also not a very wealthy community. We don't really have much going on in the town. Not too many public places for younger people or older people to really hang out. And this is the road going towards McNary. This is Louisiana State 112 highway, and that's the McNary Corp limit. So we're out of Glenmora. Thank you.